Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Tales from the Podcast. Here with my good friend here, Michael Ravenshadow, for what is this? 66666?
It's a lot of sixes. I'm not sure what number
five.
we're.
Yeah, that's 5 6s, man. It's 5. How the fuck does that feel?
Old. I mean, I think I'm beyond the gold jacket at this point.
Right. You need one of the like a Tales from the Podcast Letterman.
I do. I mean, I think Shooter McGavin ain't got nothing on me at this point. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I can't afford to do the Letterman style though, but if I do like Jim Varney style denim vests, I could probably pull that off.
Hey, Vern, it's Tales from the Podcast.
I love it. I love it, dude. Anyways, man, how have you been? It's been a little bit since I've had you on. I'm excited for it, man. I can honestly say that you are definitely one of my favorite people in the world to fucking talk to.
Thank you so much, brother. And definitely the show is one of my favorite shows to be on. So I'm very excited to be here with you and having this upcoming discussion. So yeah, I'm ready, brother.
Oh, I fucking love it. Now, if you don't mind, before we go ahead and get started, I got a couple of things I'd like to share. All right. So for those who don't know, the other day this happened, and we took our Kickstarter live, and we have a comic book coming out called Tales of Shock and Terror, and we have 4 covers there, cover A, B, C, and D. Let me go ahead and get rid of the banner there so you can actually go ahead and actually see some of this stuff. And you can get all 4 covers for $25. You can get a digital copy for $4, cover A for $5 by itself, and we have dealer incentives. And not only that, while I'm going through this, I'll show some of the single covers there. But we also have Drew Moreland, our artist, is actually for $75 a piece, going through and doing 5 random monster drawings as well. So check us out on Kickstarter. Check out everything we have going on and support it if you can. If not, please share it. We greatly appreciate it. But not only that, we also have some stretch goals here. For $500, I'll sign it. For $600, our publisher, Josh, will sign it. For $700, you get another comic from Cutthroat Comics, a digital copy of Turkey Sharks. For $800, you get some nasty sketch cards where our good friend Chuckles McNasty is going to be drawing some nasty shit and sending it to you. And if we hit our $1,000 goal, we will go ahead and print off some Tales of Shock and Terror buttons and send them your way as well. And if we get past that, guess what? I'll figure out a way to get you some more free shit. So hopefully you love it. Hopefully you check it out. I will be sharing all that information with everybody. It will be in the show notes. The Kickstarter's right there. If you go to Kickstarter, just look up Tales of Shock and Terror. It's pretty easy to find. And not only that, but if you check out our store, that store with all the stuff and all the gear for Tales of Shock and Terror will be up until the Kickstarter's done. Once the Kickstarter ends, that store is gone and you will not be able to purchase those specific items. But yeah, I made that pretty quick, but I think I got it all in. I think I did. Yeah,
that was good. You were like Wally West Flash right there. That was nice.
I've done a few episodes today. I got the whole spiel down.
You been practicing. I think it's so funny though. I can't type in Tales from the on YouTube without your fucking name coming up, JB. So you are cornering the market on this shit. I'm like, I want to watch Tales from the Crypt, but like it's fucking JB, whatever the fuck. Like it's constant. Literally.
Hey, I love it, dude. That I'm obviously doing something right. I'm doing something right. That's for sure. I will say that I have noticed that I have an interview episode on YouTube that is really skyrocketed up in views, to say the least. It has a few thousand.
Yeah.
To be very modest about it. But man, that interview I did with the amazing and very beautiful Dana De Lorenzo has done pretty well for me. You might know her as Kelly Maxwell on Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Oh.
Yeah. That face says it all.
Yeah. Not to be Randy Pan the Goat Boy, but yeah, heavens, that's not too bad. That's pretty good. But I'm so proud of what you and your crew are doing
Thank you, man.
over there with the comic and not only with the show. And that's yet another reason why I'm happy to be here hanging out with you, brother. And once again, going down the road of the 666 train. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude, I love it, dude. So, anyways, before we get into this episode this week, what's going on new with you over at Trick or Treat Radio? Have you been doing anything new? Anything special?
Yeah. No, I mean, a lot of it is, a lot of arguments, dick jokes, film discussions. But we are on this very Thursday, which will be February 17th, if I'm right with the calendar.
Well, this is live on Friday, so
So
you could check out the podcast today was released.
Thank you. So when this show drops, not only will episode 449 of Trick or Treat Radio will drop. No, wait, I'm bad with numbers. Not 449, 499. Yeah, 499. Will be dropping on Stitcher and all the platforms. So we are on the road to 500, which is very exciting, and we have a couple of things exciting. Some guests, and maybe a return of a former co-host, maybe a big appearance. So
if I guess it, will you tell me?
Maybe.
Is it Tiny?
Go Fish.
No, it's Mars then.
Go Fish.
MZ?
Check out Trick or Treat Radio. Dropping a week from this episode airs. Stay tuned. But no, we've been doing this for almost 10 years, which will be coming up this summer, and we're at episode 500. If you don't count the Halloween specials and New Year's Evil specials and stuff, but yeah, Trick or Treat Radio is still going strong, and I'm happy to be able to announce that here. And like I said, if you need more additional film discussions about pop culture, horror movies, arguments, dick jokes, check us out. We drop every Friday morning on all the platforms, and our live show is Thursdays Eastern Standard Time at 8 p.m. We've been described as the Howard Stern Show meets the Nerdist, which may or may not be compliments to some folks, but check us out if you want to lower your standards.
I wouldn't even go that far, man. It's not lowering your standards. If you guys want to check out a really fun, incredibly fun show with three very different people at the moment who all bring something very special to the table. And even though you guys don't do a lot of like heavy hitter horror movies, you guys hit a lot of the indie ones a lot of the times and a lot of the newer kind of like arts ones. Like you guys bring a different kind of dynamic to a show still kind of based around horror, but in a different light that most people don't get to witness. And you talk about movies that a lot of times people like myself, I wouldn't know some of these movies existed unless they were on your show. And it's a good thing. It's really cool. You guys have a very unique thing, and it's very different than any other kind of horror show out there. I think you undersold it a little bit. You guys are fantastic.
Well, thank you, brother. And like I say, we try to stay on the fringe of VOD. We've been doing this for almost 10 years. So We're probably part of that second or third generation of podcasts.
Was
And I
the
think
first year even doing VOD, or were you guys doing VHS at the time? Like, oh, new VHS releases this week.
Yeah, for those who have beta, check us out. You know. But
Right.
I think what set us apart was that we truly, for all the various co-hosts, have been friends for 20 plus years, and our roster may be smaller, but we're now adapting to almost a Suicide Squad type template where you have the comic, not the Amazing James Gunn, but we try to have the same three cast with rotating, co-hosts, and we're evolving, and it's still fun. We're still remote, but like I said, we're encroaching on 10 years in episode 500. Patreon is going strong. We've had some amazing listeners and friends who've contributed, and we do a lot of special things for them, whether it's the almost like quarterly periodic chat room session. We do a Masterpiece Movie Club where we all watch a film and discuss it, and it gives a chance to everyone to kind of be a part of the show at a different level. So right now the roster is myself, Johnny Wolfenstein, Aries God of War, and we're still going. So if you keep listening, we'll still do dick jokes and arguments. How's that for a trade-off?
Good. That's really, really good. I hope that I can wake up every Friday, go to work, listen to you guys, and hear a fucking dick joke every single week. The week you don't do it, I'm gonna be pretty depressed, man.
Yeah, and we've never, in almost 10 years, we've never missed a live drop. So we never had to do anything like that. Consistency is important. But
you guys have been very consistent.
It's true. Not always good or bad, but we've been consistent.
You know how hard that is? I'm just throwing it out there. That is something more difficult than what most people can realize, just to keep consistency.
So I appreciate that, brother, and I appreciate being able to share I don't call this a Zoom.
I use StreamYard.
Barnyard.
I use StreamYard.
StreamYard. Yep. StreamYard. Yeah. Tales from the StreamYard.
Should be. Might as well be. And StreamYard, if you're listening, fucking sponsor me. I fucking give you money every month.
Seriously, StreamYard. What the fuck, bro?
Right? I feel like some kind of kickbacks and fucking, it's supposed to be here soon. But
yeah, you can't work an angle.
Yeah, for real. What the fuck, dude? No. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump into this, man.
Yeah.
So you're on for another episode 6, and this is a different one compared to some of those that we get to do. This one is titled 2 for the Show. It is based off of the Crime Suspense Stories, issue number 17. And the original release date for this was October 20th of 1993. I was 5 years old when this came out.
What? Say that year again, JB.
I was 5 in October 20th, 1993.
So I was probably 93 October. I was probably I was 17 at December of 94. So yeah, maybe I was 16. I'm bad with math.
Yeah, wow. But
I'm much older than you.
A little bit. It's cool. I don't mind.
Thank you.
You're about the same age as my wife, so I'm used to talking to people your age.
Good. It's good, yes.
So anyways, to get into this a little bit. Anyways, this is a pretty cut and dry, simple episode, man. I mean, when you really break it down, it's about a couple, and they're married, and the main guy, played by David Paymer, Andy Conway, he is really into everything about himself and his work, and he's going on and on and on. And that's when Emma, his wife, is basically like, I want to leave you. I'm in love with somebody else. And it gets to the point where Andy ends up strangling her and then tries to stuff her in a suitcase. While this happens, there is a scream that's heard, and the cops are called. And a police officer, Officer Fine, ends up coming over there and doesn't find anything. But Andy has her body pretty much submerged underwater in a bubble bath. And then after Officer Fine leaves, they go ahead and he cuts her up, puts her into a suitcase, and was getting ready to just ship off the suitcase by itself. Ends up getting kind of caught up with the police officer and ending up having to go on the train with him. Basically gets to the point where he thinks the cops, after him, and then kind of thinks he's throwing him off, and then kind of like backfires again, and he goes to throw his suitcase off the train, but by the time he gets caught by the cops and the cops are there, they go to look in his suitcase, and it's Officer Fine's wife that's been stuffed into a different suitcase, and the tag was switched out. And then we see at the end of it, Officer Fine is sticking the body of what's her name, Emma Conway, basically into a garbage disposal and chopping her up there. And that's the main storyline there. Before we go ahead and jump into what we thought about it and everything, I thought I'd go ahead and talk about some of the comic book differences.
Yeah.
And the comic book is just like usual, is basically the same fucking story. There's not a lot different with it. In this story, there's not so much of the argument or anything, but there are some issues there, and the husband ends up in the basement just taking an axe to his wife and then buries her. Cops come and they don't really find anything, but he's like, well, I got to get her out of here type thing, and digs her up, puts her into a suitcase then. And we still have the entire kind of like train situation, but at the end, let's see, well, there is another small issue. The thing that kind of like gets the cops' attention, like compared to it being the class ring in the episode, is his wife left but forgot her toothbrush. So it was a toothbrush being left over that was what made him so suspicious. But the main difference between this comic book is, there's still that basic switcheroo at the end, but then you see this one separate panel, and it's this mother talking to a guy, and the guy's insane. He ended up killing a woman and shipping her body off to where, like, Idaho or something like that. I forget already where it was in the comic book. And that's who the ticket ends up getting switched with there. So it's a different body in the suitcase, but it's not from the cop. It's from a insane man whose mother made him get rid of a body. So there's like the whole different kind of twist at the end there, which is pretty interesting and very different. So anyways, man, watching this episode, dude, what did you think about this one?
I mean, even the way it opened up with the dinner scene, and dinner scenes can go a couple different ways in film. It opens up with, a woman obviously cutting a meal, and you hear this voiceover of her husband who's preoccupied with work, right? About business dealings and what we're gonna do. And, okay, and we have a event on Sunday. I know you don't like going to those events, but maybe I can write you down some lines, and that will help you be less awkward.
He seemed to be pretty scary.
Yeah, and the wife is obviously checked out, and you kind of wonder, why is Tracy Lords with Mount Rushmore that guy from films? But when they escalate the conversation where she decides, okay, I'm leaving you, I'm seeing somebody else, I'm going to Chicago, and then the fight breaks out and becomes a crime of passion, panic, in typical Tales from the Crypt format, right? I mean, like, we don't look to any happy ending with some of these films. They're arguably 25-minute stories, much like a 22-page comic. So there's the beats they got to follow to do this. And after the act is done, you cut to the police station where there are two cops on a long night shift, and one cop is very familiar with the address. Um, it's almost like Proctor from Police Academy 2, who knew exactly where the Blue Oyster Bar was.
Right.
He's like, oh yeah, that's that. How do you know where
as an audience member, as soon as you heard that cop kind of like, oh, is it this address? You instantly knew, okay, this is who she's been fucking.
Right. And he's on the phone arguing with his wife. And it's a great sense of that time frame where protocols were a little bit lax, to be fair.
I mean, cops can get away with murder.
Right. Well, they could still too in the late 2000s.
It definitely still happens. No.
what gave it away? The news. You know what
I mean? Right. For all of our police officer listeners, no, I'm joking. I don't have.
No, right. I'm just saying, like, what?
I don't think. If there is, they never made it further than Police Academy 3.
Right. Like, I want Mahoney to lead the fucking Boston Police Department.
Right. I love it.
Hightower.
Go ahead, though, man. Go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, it's fine. It's exciting. But once again, we see Officer Fine yelling at his wife. He's like, I'm going to go over there. And once again, this goes with no backup, trying to investigate, and he sees the ring on the floor. It's like, oh, did you go to this school? No, we're from Chicago. And obviously something is amiss. And then later we see the main character trying to bring a suitcase and ship it off to Chicago. And once again, it's so funny. And actually, the bellhop is a famous actor. He stood out to me, and I wish I could remember his name, and I apologize for that. But if you look at the credits, JB, which you may have in front of you, the guy that kept asking about, oh, you got to fill out this tag, and made the comment about, oh, if you don't fill out this tag the right way, it might be shipped somewhere and it's lost forever.
Would it be the
you know what I'm talking about?
Would it be the porter?
The porter, yeah.
He was in Howard the Duck, Sudden Impact, The Animal, Black Scorpion.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of things. I think even later.
Stephen Kravitz.
Yeah, the great, not Lenny, but the great Stephen Kravitz.
Yes, the very well known Stephen Kravitz.
Yeah, the lesser known Kravitz after Lenny and Zoe.
I don't even think they're related. Like the way you said it made it sound like they're like all family.
It's like a Baldwin. I mean, he's remarkably Caucasian.
I think the last thing he actually was part of, I don't know, is he still alive? Yeah, he's still alive. You guess where he lives?
In New Brunswick.
No, I'm probably going to say this wrong because I'm not a Massachusetts guy. Worcester?
Oh my,
Worcester?
Really? Worcester, man. That's where fucking we're from. Really?
Worcester?
Yeah, there's no H in there, brother. Worcester.
That does not look like it would be Worcester. I would expect Worcester to be spelled Wister. But yeah, that's where he was born.
Yeah, that's literally 15 minutes from where I'm recording right now, and I think I'm frozen. But no, that's funny.
That's wow. So you grew up that close to the extremely famous and super popular Stephen Kravitz? When you go into Worcester, do you guys have like a sign like "Welcome to Worcester, Massachusetts, home of Stephen Kravitz"?
Yeah. It's kind of like going to Smallville, home of Superboy.
Well, like I lived in Monroe, Michigan for a while, and when you would go into Monroe, it'd be like home of Kaylani Ratcliffe, who was like one of the Miss America pageant people, and then it also say home of Bronco McCart, who won like one boxing championship like 40 years ago.
Bronco McCart? It sounds like an Irish fucking carriage getter at like Walmart.
Right, and then they had all their pride into like General Custer because he lived there for a while, but like so like it would be like home of General Custer, Bronco McCart, and Kaylani Rafco. So it's just like wow, none of those people are realistically super famous, so I don't know why they would put that up there. Cool, interesting, I understand, but like, it's
Right.
not like you were in Worcester and it was fucking Steven Kravitz.
Right. So, holy shit. Yeah, but that's funny. That's literally like a cigarette smoke from where my house is to Worcester, and that's the second big.
Right.
It's the second largest city in New England in Massachusetts.
That's
Uh,
interesting. One of my
yeah,
favorite radio shows actually airs in your area as well, and they talk about a lot of the stories from there. So I get to hear a lot about it anyway, and I it's really interesting, you know. But yeah, that's for a different time. I'll tell you about that off air.
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. But yeah, but he's great. Oh, was
Oh
he
yeah.
not also? Well, I don't know, we could digress. But anyway, um, yeah, watching these Tales from the Crypt episodes, so far removed, is almost like watching like maybe the modern day equivalent of like Law and Order. Um, when you see the credits of people who like either made it or who appeared in it, it's just that snapshot in time of people, and it's so brilliant. And I think this continues the trend in what Tales from the Crypt did.
Right. You're yeah. I agree with you 100% on that. If you had to rate this episode between a 1 and a 10, though, where would you throw it?
I mean, maybe not super high. I think that it with the main character, you thought he was doing a swerve, but like anything else, there's always a what do you call it?
A twist.
A twist. The devil has to get its due, kind of thing. So you never know who's really going to come out on top. And it was a cat and mouse game. And there's been some legendary cat and mouse. What it was? It was it Double Indemnity was the famous Hitchcock on a train movie.
I think
Um,
so.
Maybe even also Throw Mama from the Train type thing. There's been a lot of things with trains.
Oh
It could
hell,
be,
man! They run murder mystery plays on fucking trains to this day. It is
right,
such a
so,
common trope that they actually do it as like, interactive plays.
right, exactly. So when you see us, when the main character is bringing the suitcase to the train, and Officer Fine just happens to be there, where he tells his partner, "Yeah, aren't you going on vacation tomorrow?" He said, "I said I'm going fishing, but not with my wife."
Yeah, I
So
think
it
he killed her.
it obviously it only has 25 minutes to tell the story.
Oh yeah. Well, to be fair though, like, you know, most movies they kind of equate one page of a script equals 1 minute on screen.
Sure.
That is supposedly the average. I'm not a filmmaker. I can't say that's true, but that is what is out there. You're talking about a 7 page comic book.
Right, right,
So, I mean, it is what it is with that. A comic book can, yeah, tell a little bit more of a story than a written script, but, overall, I mean, I, c- it would be very, very difficult to make some of these comic book, you know, segments because it's not even an entire issue, but to turn it
right.
into like a hour story. So, I think 25 to 30 minutes is like the perfect time limit on a 7 minute story while trying to update it from the 50s to the late 80s, early 90s.
Right. And I thought the usage of modern appliances for that time was giving some of those modern appliances more credence than they actually were capable of,
Yeah.
especially the cutting of the electric steak knife to the garbage disposal, um, which my garbage disposal in 2000, whatever the fuck, had a hard time dealing with carrots, let alone human bones.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but there is a cat and mouse game between the police officer trying to gain the trust interaction of the main character. Um, and it's funny how he shows up. He's like, "Oh, you eating that? Oh yeah, I'm hungry. I'll have some of your meatloaf." Like he knows that he killed his wife. Um,
Oh yeah.
he
That's all
throws
no.
him the line. about, oh, see that guy over there? He's a drug dealer. And because they have all this new technology with planes, with metal detectors, and once again, it's so funny how it goes back to you could write on a bag and theoretically ship something off and not go there, as opposed to the modern day, scan technology.
Oh yeah, it's very very different time to say the least.
And I think these shows are definitely time capsules in a sense, not only of the actors and creators, but of the method they use to tell the story, which could even go far back to the original stories from the 50s or even earlier. You know what I mean? You gotta buy into that sense of world and sense of disbelief, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. That's for sure. What did you say you would rate this between 1 and 10?
Oh, this one, I would say, a 4.
All right, all right. I was just
Um,
curious on where you were sitting on this one.
Not a bad episode, but not like, oh, if I think of Tales from the Crypt, this isn't my go-to.
No, 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 that's for sure. I will say what's one of the things different is like I personally I'm going to be closer to what you think on this episode as far as like rating it, but IMBD gives this one a 7.8 out of 10, which
Really?
yeah, it was just super surprising because realistically, not a lot of these episodes got that high of a rating on IMBD to begin with. So for this one to be such a high rated episode kind of doesn't make a lot of sense to me personally. But I guess to get into my review of this one, I would probably give it around a probably closer to a 5. There are some that I dislike a lot more than this one that I would still give them at least a 4. This
Yeah.
one is not it's not super horrible, but when you think of Tales from the Crypt, this isn't the one that I would personally think of. Like, sure, you get a lot of your love triangle type episodes, and this definitely fits the bill for that. But this isn't one of my favorites. I will say the little tiny twist at the end where you realize that it's the cop's wife in there, and the cop says something about his wife meeting her wife, or his
Yeah.
wife meeting his wife, was an extra twist to it that I thought was super interesting. And I thought the way that this cop kind of basically played this man through and didn't really like give up himself, but like he framed him in such a different way. I thought that was very interesting. Um, I will say, compared to a lot of the other episodes, the practical effects in this one were not as good. The body parts look great, but when you see the head looks really bad in this one. It's nowhere compared to some of the earlier seasons. I don't know what was going on with this episode. Maybe they had to rush it or something, but I feel like they could have done a better job with that for sure. I mean, like in fitting punishment, for instance, we're watching him poke people with like those like huge fucking like blood draining fucking needles, where he's getting ready to
Right.
embalm people, and it looks fucking real as shit. And this is like probably one of the first times, and even compared to like early episodes where the practical effects on that part of it just didn't work for me. And it's solely the head when he's pulling it out of the bathtub.
Mm.
It just doesn't look right for me personally.
Which
Um,
you could which you could argue, if you're gonna have Tracy Lord head, it'd be better than what we saw in this episode. And that's
yeah,
terrible. So,
yeah. I just thought they could have done a little bit better with that personally. Other than that, though, I will say it's not a super horrible episode. It's one of like the love ones and the love triangle type stories, which realistically aren't for me, which is why it gets a little bit of a lower rating. Me personally, I want some more horror into mine.
right.
Um, I get why this is the episode that it is, though. I've read more of these comic books than the majority of people I know, and I could say, like honestly, like there are more stories about love and women, and Let's be honest. These comic books were written in the 50s, but there's a lot of stories about cheating wives
Right.
and getting, getting, men getting revenge and just, I mean, the time period wasn't really good for it, but I mean, the stories, there's so many of them that I can see why so many actually made the screen. There's not as many like monster ones and just pure horror stories in comparison. Overall, though, I will say it's not a horrible episode. There are other episodes in the season that I'm definitely looking a little bit more forward to, like Creep Course coming up here, which is going to be episode 9. I mean, we got Anthony Michael Hall in that one. A
Sure.
little bit fun, you know what I mean? And that was a story where the actual screenplay was written by William Gaines, which that's a pretty fucking big deal.
Right.
I'm sure not everyone's going to understand that, but I know that you for sure do. But we got some other episodes this season that are just as good, like Oil's Well That Ends Well with Lou Diamond Phillips and Priscilla Presley. I mean, there's some pretty fucking good episodes here coming up. We even finished up this season with an episode with Kate Vernon and John Stamos. With I think there's a cameo from Frank Stallone in it too. So I mean, like there's some pretty cool things going on in the season later on. This episode is just a little bit on the end for me personally. I will even say like the next episode, House of Horror, coming out that we're going to be doing soon. We got Will Wheaton in it, Jason Landon, and Keith Coogan. So,
Right.
And then hell, the episode after that, we got motherfucking Billy Zane.
Oh shit.
With Martin Sheen. So I mean, like this season of the show is just full of some pretty fucking heavy hitters. So I'm a little bit more excited for some of the upcoming episodes. This one wasn't exactly the greatest personally, but it was still a fun one. And I will say, of all the people I'm able to enjoy in episode 6 of Tales from the Crypt with, I'm happy it's you.
Well, thank you, brother. And yeah, once again, even a bad Tales from the Crypt episode still is better than most things that's you can watch or stream currently. So,
well, I mean, I'll be honest. There's a lot of good things to stream currently.
That's true. All right.
And just going ahead and getting into it right away, because of you, I watched Peacemaker, and that was I don't know if it's done yet, but I mean, I had a lot of fun watching it so far.
And that's the thing. We live in a time of a gluttony of riches for entertainment,
and people bitching about it anyway.
Right, and that's
Boba Fett wasn't that fucking bad. People deal with it.
I don't get it. I don't get it. We're lucky. We're lucky to
me growing up a Star Wars fan. I was dying for a Boba Fett show.
Right.
I'm happy I got one.
It's fucking killer. It's fucking
better than what everyone's bitching about. That's for sure.
It's absurd, but once again, I think in the context of Tales from the Crypt, this was big for back in the day, and I think you could argue maybe that a lot of shows still owe a debt to the Tales from the Crypt TV show, air quotes, franchise.
No, you're right. I just had a whole conversation with somebody the other day where I personally believe that majority of people into horror owe a debt to EC Comics.
Oh my God, of course.
And I mean, I went into pretty big detail on how, like, you wouldn't fucking have any of the shit that you like without EC Comics. That simple. Not alone just talking about them basically keeping the comic book industry alive.
Right.
So all you Marvel fans out there, you're fucking welcome that EC was able to support your guys' asses through the 50s to make it where you can still get comics.
And lucky enough that the government decided to jump in and try to stop EC Comics.
Yeah, fuck you. Yeah. Yeah. To be fair, DC and Marvel backed them so that because they were losing on a lot of sales in comparison.
And there's an argument to be made that other publishers tried to keep EC out of business. And Marvel was able to circumvent a few things by not having, main. You can't have your main protagonist be against the law.
To say the least, why is there a living vampire? Fucking
right, exactly.
Fucking bastards.
So whenever
any way you look at it, they schemed against DC.
Right. So whenever you see the Jared Leto Morbius
which
living
I still
vampire
watching.
Yeah, right. It'll be fine. Yeah.
Right.
But the Hulk was able to fight the government. Spidey was able to be an outlaw.
Right.
EC
tries it, and all the comic book industries go against them and ban it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a silly thing that fucking funny books were a target, but EC was selling mad units, dude. And
oh yeah. Well, I mean, come on, you were like for the 50s. Let's be honest, some of these stories were just straight up sexy. Like there were some very provocative fucking things in some of the EC books. It wasn't just horror. I mean, you had the way men would portray women in the 50s.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's my views whatsoever, but I mean, it's a written part of our history. And I mean, if you go and look back at it, I mean, it doesn't necessarily look good. And being young boys, being probably in between, starting puberty, I mean, like, of course they're going to gravitate towards these comic books because that's the closest thing they can get to like a nudie mag in the 50s.
Right. It was always the idea of having something that was provocative, or it felt that your parents wouldn't want you to read or watch it.
Right.
Same.
EC was that.
It was the same thing. The way I felt listening to Alice in Chains, The Man in the Box, on my old, headphones and cassette tape back in the day, or reading a heavy metal magazine.
I wouldn't understand that.
Thank you.
My dad got me my first CD when I was pretty young, and it was Marilyn Manson. So
right. But same thing. I mean, my first album was Thriller. The fuck. Bill Cosby's a fun comedian. Okay, good. He can't possibly be a bad person. But then I gravitated more towards Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor. But I think it's that. I think what EC Comics did, it made creativity kind of dangerous, especially in a time where it was a different world. It wasn't the internet, and the world was much smaller. And the influence is huge. And you could not be a modern comic or horror fan without the creators that worked at EC Comics. And we wouldn't have got Tales from the Crypt, which arguably for its time was probably the most successful, air quotes, comic book show, which it was. It was based on comic.
I'm trying to think. Like there wasn't too many. Well, no, the most successful comic based show back then was. It's even earlier, but I mean, Batman in the '60s. That was.
Well, right. So sure.
High up there,
You got Batman '66, which is. I'm sorry. Maybe before that, you had the George Reeves rather. Not Christopher Reeve, but George Reeves. He had the S show. But truly, was that maybe 2 or 3 seasons? Batman '66 was a licensed parody. You had the Wonder Woman Linda Carter show, which maybe also lasted for 3 seasons, maybe 4 at the most. Incredible Hulk.
Long. I don't think the Hulk lasted that long either.
No more than 3, I don't think.
Even though I will say that there's something about watching that Lou Ferrigno Hulk that even though I like the newer ones, there's something about that still makes that show fucking awesome to me.
It had a remarkably horror element. That intro, the when the thing, when he in the rain, when he fucking gets big, like it was scary to me. Um, and I was a pup when that was coming out. Um, but truly, there was a break. If after Batman, actually, Tales from the Crypt was what 87, 88? Am I right in that?
The first season, I believe, was like I think it was probably being filmed in '88, and I think it was released in '89. Because
Okay.
we're in the fifth season, and we're in '93, so yeah, about '88, '89.
But that was part of that HBO wave of like Tales from the Crypt, and we've talked about ad nauseum, you and I, JB, about First and Ten with once again the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah, John Cassieri played the kicker,
You
the goal
know,
kicker. Yeah.
although I do think this episode did have a really good bookend. I liked the Crypt Keeper at the comedy club.
Oh yeah, they fucking nailed that. That was one of the things. Like, and I don't really get a chance to talk too much about the Crypt Keeper segments on these, but I mean, this was definitely a better one for sure. They did a great job, and I mean, come on, let's be honest. We got Kevin Yeager doing all the effects there, and
Sure,
John Cassier's amazing fucking voice. I mean, let's just be 100% honest. Could they fuck that up? I don't think so. I mean, you got I don't know. There's something about John Cassier and the way he does the Crypt Keeper that is amazing. And not just back in the 90s, but I mean, even if you talk to the guy today and check out what he's doing today and check out his cameo and stuff like that, this dude has accepted the fact of the Crypt Keeper being one of the most iconic things that he's ever done, that he has no problem talking about it in any length, any capacity whatsoever, and he
yeah,
loves it, and you can see the passion there with him with it, and it's just it's amazing. That's one of those things where it's like, okay, so you're seeing an actor, he's playing a role that's cool, and then when he's not playing that role, you can see there's a difference. John
right.
Cassier, if he doesn't like that role, he fakes it so good I would never be able to tell. The way he lives his entire life and talks about Tales from the Crypt, it's fascinating. I mean, just the fan base that guy has because of this show is incredible. I will say hands down, he was one of the coolest guys ever. You know,
100%. And you had the ability to have a conversation with him on past episodes. Um, but like, there's something about Tales from the Crypt, the intro, the journey down from the fucking
oh yeah, that's the part that scared every one of us as we were children.
right, right. And once again, I remember it just being on. Um, and when it kicks in, like, holy shit. But you had to watch. It's one of those shows, if you were young enough when it came out, you would watch from behind like your grandparents' couch. And it's why we're talking about it in 2022. Um,
Yeah.
and even an episode might not be the best looking back on it in with a 2022 lens, it's still great for the time capsule and it accomplishes things. So while this might not have been the most memorable episode, I'm glad I got to watch the Tales from the Crypt.
Hey
Um,
man, I think
and
the
it
next
hit the
time we do
spot.
one of these episodes, I should bring you on here and we should actually watch the episode together too.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. There's something about doing it with a buddy that makes it even so much more fun.
I would love that. We should do that. We'll do what do they call that? Zoom or like SharePoint or some fucking thing.
Oh, so it's the one I'm using is StreamYard. I can actually do it right on here with us.
I would
So,
like that.
oh yeah, dude. I think that's exactly what I'm gonna do from now on. I think I love that idea so much that it's I don't think I can go without doing it.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Well, anyways, man, dude, thank you so much for coming on, dude. It's always a fucking blast having you on. I love talking Tales from the Crypt with you, dude. Next week we got a different episode going on. I hope everyone likes it. But me and Chuckles McNasty, we're going to be talking about something really different. Something you guys would never expect two grown men to talk about. And That is the Straight Outta Nowhere movie, which, yes, for those who are not familiar, is a Scooby-Doo cartoon with Cowardly Dog. Being horror fans and of the younger age that we are, one of the earliest things that was able to get us into horror, at least on some extent, was Scooby-Doo.
And that's, to be fair, once again, we mentioned I'm older than you, JB, but and Chuck, but some of that shit fucking scared me too. Like, you just imagine horror always, even if I was always mostly a superhero sci-fi guy or kid, something about even Scooby-Doo still had that kills the music. And it might sound silly, but I was very young. You understand?
Yeah.
It was like I was 25, but you know, I got no shame in the game when Scooby-Doo is mentioned.
No, there is no shame. You know, Scooby-Doo is fucking awesome. That's for sure. You know, but for everyone out there, check that out. And also before we go, guys, please check out what we got going on with the Kickstarter. Check it out. Look up Tales of Shock and Terror. It'll be issue number 1. There's only one issue out, guys. And I mean, we got some cool shit. Check it out. At least give us a like, follow it. Anything helps. Even if you just share it to some of your buddies that might be interested. It's still something that's appreciated, and we definitely love it. And Ravenshadow, dude, thank you once again, man. Anything else you want to say before I close this out?
No. Once again, thank you for having me on, buddy. And check out Trick or Treat Radio. Our live feed drops every Thursday night around 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, and the audio drops on Friday morning. And there's 3 guarantees in life. Death, taxes, and Trick or Treat Radio every Friday morning. So if you enjoyed this, check us out, and definitely check out Tales of the Podcast and support JB and all of his initiatives.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And thank you once again for coming on. And with that being said, guys, the crypt is closed.
Thanks for listening, kiddies. You're all a scream.